All right, quick agenda for tonight. Do a little review of 2023, a financial review. We're going to preview 2024. We're going to make some changes, and then Barney's going to give us an update on the latest changes in Lightroom. So on last year, 2023, this gives you just a quick idea. We did 5 different presentations. We had one thing we call Ask the Experts, where members got a chance to ask a panel. We were supposed to have 2 contests. We canceled one due to close proximity to Thanksgiving. So we did a scavenger hunt. We had another event we call What Do I Do? Or it's a post-processing challenge. We had our annual meeting. We had a holiday party. I hope y'all okay. Missed a free burger at Billy's. So, oops. Hang on a second. And of course, we do the Yellowstone trip each year, and then that's going to kick off for 8 lucky people here in just another few days. So,
what's the 2 outings?
We had 2 outings. Rachel led one, and Karen did the other one. So, yeah. Real quickly, do the treasurer's report. Michael was going to do this, but I can go over it real quickly for everyone. So we have 126 paid members this year, down a few, down 17, but we had 9 new members join. You can see where the revenue comes from. It's about half from membership and half from our Yellowstone trip. Even at that, the Yellowstone trip is a real value. It's several $1,000s cheaper than a similar trip from a professional photographer. So you see where our expenses went, contest and meetings. The tech expenses is for running our website and a few other things. So then we also paid some of our speakers, and we have no advertising, very little administrative expense. So basically the club's in really good financial shape. We've got plenty of money. The $50,000 won't reflect after we do the Yellowstone trip. Quite a few expenses come back out. So it'll probably be down in the high 30s once the trip's over. Oops, there's Michael. I just gave your treasurer's report, Michael. So,
is it my turn?
Well, I don't know, you missed it. So, sure.
With that much money, do we put some of that into like a CD now that we can get 4 or 5%?
Yeah.
Do we want to do that?
Well, I mean, make 4.5%, 4% on 50 grand.
Yeah.
Not bad.
All right.
We could probably take 40 of it.
All right. There was a question here about putting some of the money into an investment, but we can discuss that later. I think our treasurer thinks it's a good idea. So, yeah. All right. So I'm going to go over some of the things we're going to do for the coming year. Tonight is the annual meeting, and then Barney's going to have a little talk about some of the new changes in Lightroom. On February's meeting, we're going to have a lady named Patty Larson do layers, textures, and masking. And then March 19th will be Jennifer King. And if any of y'all remember, we had her earlier in the year. She had a big storm and got knocked off, and this is our chance to reschedule her. Everybody's looking forward to that. So we got about 3 slides in, I think, before. After March, we're going to probably move away from always being in the library, and we're going to try to do some field events and be a lot more involved as opposed to just sitting here in the library and watching a presentation. So those 2 field events you see scheduled for April and June, that's what that's going to be. It probably will not be in the library. So look at the snapshots we send out, the newsletter, and also on the website. And then in July, we'll do a scavenger hunt, and then we'll do the rest of the year will be some combination of field events and then some other type things. So quite a few changes there. So tonight, I've given Barney some very provocative intros here for talking about the changes to Lightroom, but we'll turn it over to him and let it go. Do you want to? That's your cue.
Okay, so we gotta close you out, right?
Yep.
Pull this up. Good. The way this came about was just in a conversation with David. He was looking for a little bit of a filler time after the financials and the annual meeting. And I said, well, you know, I saw this interesting thing about how they've changed Lightroom and have listened to a number of podcasts and some educators out there about what's coming down the pike and as far as Lightroom is concerned and how it relates to Lightroom Classic. I said it'd be, you know, good 5 or 10 minute discussion. Well, it's kind of blown up into a little bit more than that, obviously. The topic here is that as the future arrived early, and as you know, we're constantly moving more and more things towards the cloud and being able to access things from wherever we are. And that's going to be kind of part of the main theme tonight. But one of the bottom lines with Lightroom and why it's important to discuss it at this point in time is they've changed it fundamentally so that you can access it directly from your hard drive. And I'll show you some examples of that tonight. And you can put those images onto the cloud or keep them on your hard drive. In other words, it's become much more closely aligned with Lightroom Classic than the old Lightroom for mobile. So that's going to be what we're going to kind of talk about. For you Lightroom Classic users, that's me. Okay, I've been using it since 2008 when it first came out, and it was just called Lightroom at that point in time. And by the way, just to keep in mind as to how far we've come, we didn't even have a crop tool in Lightroom when it first came out. Okay, so think about that and think where we are now, and then think about Lightroom and where it's headed now with all the AI things that are being added every day. And you can see where the future is headed. I'm not here to change your mind. I know that there's at least one person here in the room that says you ain't gonna pry it from my cold dead hands, okay? And I love that that Charleston Heston. I mean, and I agree. I agree with it too. The real takeaway here is to show you what this can do, and especially if you're a new user to Lightroom, I am going to encourage you to start with Lightroom and not Lightroom Classic, and I'll tell you, and you'll see why. Because the bottom line there is it's a much more intuitive program. It's easier to use. It's easy to access. And from there, if you decide that you need even more, then you can always go over to Lightroom Classic if you want to deal with it. So like I said, if you're new to Lightroom, you may want to consider starting that. So this is the title slide that David put together for me and that generated a lot of interest. And I think one of the important takeaways here is we now have 4 different versions of Lightroom floating around. Okay, now I have used Lightroom Mobile a little bit, but I don't really use it on a regular basis. I've never used Lightroom for the web or on my iPad. I just don't do that. I work off this laptop and I carry this laptop with me. I split my time between here and North Carolina. And one of the things that I found for me is that when I leave North Carolina, I leave my library of images there. I don't have them with me. I take a specific set of those and I put them on a hard drive, a little thumb drive, and I bring them out with me. But the bulk of them are just sitting there in a RAID array, which is shut down. I really wish that I had more access to those. And one of the things I'm getting comfortable with is that Lightroom might be able to help me do that. So For those of you who are not familiar with Lightroom Classic, just one word about it, and that is catalog. And what is the catalog? Because the catalog is absolutely critical to the function of Lightroom Classic. And it's where I would say 90% of the people get in trouble with it, because everything you do in Lightroom has to be done through your Lightroom Classic. I'll just say Classic moving forward, has to be done through the catalog. If you do anything out with your images outside of that, it's not going to recognize that. And that's because it's like the old, we all know what this is, what the card catalogs were like. And basically, that's what Lightroom Classic catalog is. And the books are your images that are on the computer. So Classic knows where your images are, like the book is on the library shelf because it's in the catalog. If you move something, or if you rename something outside of the catalog, it's not going to know where it is. It's just like taking a library book and putting it on the wrong shelf. All of a sudden it's gone until somebody puts it back to where it was. So this is why you must import your images into Lightroom through into their catalog, and then post-process your images in Lightroom Classic so that all that information is retained. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say about catalog, and that's why it's a royal pain in the butt, I think. But it's part of my, I mean, I've used it for so long, it's just my routine. So I keep myself focused on doing that. So let's just talk briefly about the differences between Classic and Lightroom. First of all, Lightroom, of course, is a catalog centric. We just talked about that. In Lightroom now, there's no catalog. You plug your hard drive in, you start up Lightroom, and all your images are there. And I'm going to show you all this in a little bit. You also have access to the cloud, and you can put images up into the cloud. And I just took a picture of everybody just before we started off of my phone, which now should be sitting in my Lightroom catalog, my Lightroom program on my computer right now, because it went up to the cloud and it came back down. It just happened just like that fast, which is kind of cool. If you're somebody who does a lot of Instagram or Facebook posting, and you're out in the you're out somewhere, you're traveling somewhere, and you want to do more than just a simple snapshot and post it directly. If you want to take it into something like Lightroom, you can do that because it's going to download automatically, and then you can go ahead and put it back up again. So as far as the hard drive storage goes, desktop, laptop, that's required for Classic. You have both the hard drive and the cloud, as we've kind of talked about for Lightroom. The rest of this is pretty much self-explanatory. With Lightroom Classic, you do have an option to take some of your collections and put them up into the cloud. One of the things that I found out, I didn't realize this, because I thought that my high resolution images were going up to the cloud from Classic. No, it's not. It's a lower resolution image that's going up, that's being stored in the cloud. Whereas in Lightroom, you have your full resolution sitting up in the cloud. So that might be important for you. It may not be, but it's something to consider if you're working on the go and splitting your time. You have your comprehensive tools in the development module in Classic. We all know how you can do probably 95% of your post-processing work in Lightroom Classic without having to leave that program. In Lightroom, instead of calling it a development module, they call it a detail module. And it has almost everything that the development module has in Classic, but it doesn't have everything. And there are some things that are important to you. You may not want to use Lightroom yet to make that happen. We'll talk a little bit about that.
Can I ask one question? Second question, Jeff.
Yeah.
Is Lightroom a browser-based application, or is
It sits on my computer.
it does?
Yeah.
Is it browser-based?
There is a browser, yeah, browser-based. I don't know how to use that. I don't use that. The other thing, the other very important point on the detail module is Adobe has said over and over again that they are committed to parity between the detail module in Lightroom and the development module in Classic. And I think that to me is critical. And they're about 80–90% of the way there right now. There's some little things that you can't do, and there's a couple of big things that you still can't do, but you can do them in Photoshop, and there are workarounds for it. But they're working towards that. Both programs, easy access to Photoshop and back again, of course. And then this is one of the things that I'm sure they're working on right now. In Classic, of course, we can get to Topaz and Nick and On One and the like very easily. They don't have those links in Lightroom. In order to get to that, you have to go through Photoshop. It's a little bit more of a convoluted way to do it, but that's how you do it. The other thing to consider, and this is part of your workup, is in Lightroom Classic, if you are somebody who uses the map function, I find that convenient. I rarely ever use it. I probably, 2 or 3 times a year, even though my camera will link in the GPS data. I've never used the books. I rarely use slideshow, and I don't use the print module. I print out of Photoshop. I don't print out of Lightroom. So if you don't use those, then what are you using? You're using it for organization and post-processing and exporting. And you can do just about all of that in Lightroom right now. So you got to balance it. This is kind of like an overall summary for that. Desktop for Lightroom Classic, that's required. Desktop, mobile, and web for Lightroom based. Local hard drive versus local hard drive and cloud. Image backup. Well, with both of them, if your images are sitting on your hard drive, you're responsible for backing that up. In Lightroom Classic, of course, and I'm sure everybody that uses this at least once a week or so, the catalog is automatically backed up and optimized and checked, and they do that automatically. Knock on wood, of all the years I've been using Lightroom Classic, I've never had a catalog go bad on me. But I have, yeah, I know, it's just like, but I have a gazillion backups to it. And actually every so often I go through and knock out all except for the last 30 days. But in Lightroom, if you have your images on the cloud, then everything is automatically backed up. Ease of use, of course, Lightroom Classic, I list that as very, very comprehensive. Lightroom is more intuitive and streamlined. So that's why I really emphasize, if you're just starting out and looking at this, start with Lightroom. It'll make a lot more sense to you a lot faster because you don't have all this esoteric stuff hanging around it that makes you, that's just distracting, basically. For organization and search, I'm going to show you a couple of examples of this. Of course, one of the great things about Lightroom Classic is that you can find your images through any type of metadata source. And if you're a real OCD person, which I am not, and you manually keyword everything, then you can search that and pull it up very, very easily. And there are some people that do that, and there are a lot of people like me who just don't, and maybe just put in a couple of keywords and they're importing things in and leave it at that. One of the cool things about Lightroom, and I think this is where things are headed, is they have an artificial intelligence algorithm which generates generates essentially keywords automatically for your images. So, and I'll show you and we can pull up a couple of examples. We can type in moose, for example, and in anything that's related to moose, from location to animal to any person that's linked to Moose will pop up automatically through this AI search. So, and this is where I think Lightroom is headed, and why in maybe 7 or 8 years we're going to be talking about Lightroom Classic as the classic car of the 50s and 60s, and everybody's going to be moving to Lightroom. And that's because Adobe's not going to force us to move over. They're just going to, I think they're going to add more and more AI capabilities to Lightroom, and just kind of just suck us over there, basically. That's how I think this is going to happen. But we'll see what happens. Whether or not Lightroom Classic is going to be around in 7 years, there are a lot of people out there that work in this area all the time, and they say, I don't think so. But we'll see. I'm certainly going to keep on using it. This is off of their website, the Adobe website, as far as a comparison of it. And I just wanted to kind of put this up. This kind of summarizes everything that we talked about, where the location of your images are, your file access to across devices. This is up through the cloud. You've got low resolution proxies through Lightroom Classic, whereas you've got the full originals. We talked about that. File backup for what you have on your desktop versus in the cloud. The editing tools, again, I think they're coming up to parity as far as Lightroom versus Lightroom Classic, but there's still a gap there. And then, of course, finding photos. I really like the idea of having a program do that for me. So let's let me see if I can close out of this and move to this. So 16 minutes ago, I took a picture of everybody that was here on my iPhone. I didn't do anything else. And there it is, 16 minutes ago. It's in Lightroom. I think that's, I'm still blown away that can happen. But anyway, that's what happens. This is the format that you see for Lightroom. And what I want to do, yeah.
So Barney, what is Lightroom's organizational protocol?
What's under the covers that's making this all work?
So you have so you've gone out and you've shot 200 images on your card.
Mm-hmm.
Stick your card into your computer.
Mm-hmm.
And where are you putting it?
Wherever you want.
So you're not doing it in Lightroom anymore?
You're not doing it in Lightroom. You're just creating a folder.
Yeah.
So you went out and you shot today, moose, okay? And you've got a card full of images, and you just type in however you want to file it, and maybe it's by date,
Yeah,
and you put a folder there, and then you just transfer those images into the folder.
and then how does Lightroom?
Then you open this up. It's either on your hard drive or on a memory stick. You go to local. Well, there's yours, but why doesn't it see mine? Tell you what. Well, let me put it on this side. I might not have put it all the way in.
Okay.
So there is, this is backup. So, and if you had, if it would be there, open that up. There would be your 200 images.
In the organization structure, the file system on your computer.
Yeah.
You determine how
If
you.
you're
What's
on
that?
Got 1,000
What was that?
photos that came out of your phone, for example.
Mhm.
Like, I'm gonna pull those into,
You are looking at, so the question is how Lightroom is interfacing with the hard drive that has all your images on it. And here's the perfect example. I just plugged in a hard drive to this computer. And it could be, you could give me a hard drive, I could plug it in and we'd see the same thing. You'd see your structure over on the left-hand side, whatever that is, and then inside those folders would be all of your images.
and so is it using sidecar files?
I'm not sure, but from what I understand, and I've heard this, and
Is it non-destructive?
it's non-destructive, okay? And so you make all of your edits in Lightroom, okay? And it works in this regard, it works like Classic. In order to get those out of Lightroom, you need to export it.
Okay.
Okay, so I believe that there's a sidecar file that's generated. I think that deep in the program that we can't see, there's some type of a catalog that obviously is being made,
So let
but
me
I
ask you
don't
this.
know.
If I've got Lightroom on a desktop in North Carolina and on a different computer that's mine in Jackson,
Yes,
they're both connected to the same Creative Cloud account,
yes.
and I pull that little drive, and I plug it into the other, and the edit's gonna be there.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that. And I would suspect not, because the Lightroom programs are two independent programs. And there's,
If I have two Lightroom Classics, move the drive from one to the other, the edits are gonna be there because the sidecar file lives with the photos.
right, right.
So that would be something.
Yeah, that'd be something to know.
Repeat the question for the.
So the question was about if you have Lightroom on two separate computers in two different locations. If you make changes to the image on one computer, and then it's on that hard drive, and you take that hard drive and then you plug it into the other computer, will those changes be there? And I think that the answer is no, but I have not tried that, so I don't know. What I have tried is, and the reason why I say that is I have made some changes to an image in Lightroom, not exported it, but just left it like that. And then I went and I looked on the file in the main file on the hard drive and opened that up, and the changes weren't there. They were not there. So that,
So I think that the way Adobe eventually wants this to work is it wants you to put everything in the cloud.
they want to run it through the
And then
cloud.
if you've got 15 computers running 15 different Lightrooms, but everything's pointing to the cloud, then you've got everything.
Yeah,
But I think they may only do with proxies. I don't think they want all the originals up there. That's my guess.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of recurring revenue from selling.
Cloud space, yeah.
well, and this is the big hang up right now with Adobe. Adobe's cloud space, storage space is very expensive. It's extraordinarily expensive. I mean, 1 terabyte is essentially $10 a month. Now, a terabyte, that's what, about 20,000 images, 50 megabyte images. So do you have 20,000 images that you need to put up on the cloud? Maybe some people do, some people don't.
Solid state drive for $100.
And yeah, like,
Yeah.
well, you talked me into this one, which is like, yeah. And that was like $250 a couple years ago. Yeah. So,
$14.
You can buy his for $14. Anyway, so that's how all of this works, and there's still some kinks and all that, and I think that it's great to have these types of discussions and find out where some of these other kinks are.
When you mentioned a while ago that from your iPhone and then already there.
Yeah,
Go back to that just a minute.
yeah.
Is that through the Lightroom?
No, so what I did was I took a picture with his iPhone. I had Lightroom open in here, okay? And
One Lightroom class?
no, just iPhone Lightroom. Okay, mobile. I live mobile. And what it did is it found that image because it automatically gets put in there, and then it just shoots it up to the cloud, and then it comes in here.
Picture through Apple Camera, or did you take it through Lightroom?
Well, so like take the photo.
Yeah, but did you just use the camera app, or did you use?
I'm just using the camera app, just the camera app.
So it's going into your camera roll on your phone.
Exactly.
That's right. And then it's also and it just got picked up in Lightroom.
Yep.
And now it should be, depending upon, well, 25 minutes ago, it's going to take, it takes a few minutes depending upon how it is, but you know, we'll see that image kind of pop up here.
Do that automatically, or can you tell it that you don't want it?
Well, you can tell you don't want to do it. I mean, and the easiest way to do that is just don't open up Lightroom on your phone. And then it will just go onto your, and then if you want to put it in, then you just open up Lightroom and select those images, and yeah.
File first and then post that.
That's right. Yeah. Yep. Yep. You can, I mean, if you want me to take, I can take you through a couple of, simple demos if you want, as far as how the post-processing works. So, is there a way to move this out?
Basically,
There we go.
it's like a universal editor. The Lightroom can now edit photographs that are stored in multiple different locations, not organized in a catalog, not connected to the Lightroom storage methodology. So they're trying to turn it into like a universal like photography editor that you're using when you're going to retrieve. You have to set up your own organization.
Mhm.
So you know what to retrieve.
Right. Yeah, and I think,
Show me how it keyworded the picture on the left of the mountain scene with the tree.
this one?
Yeah.
No, I can't show you that. Because I'm not that familiar with whether or not it can actually show you the keywords. I have not seen that. I've searched for images, for example, and in fact, I think is that the search bar up there. We kind of talked about this and just said, oh, come on. There we go. So it's gone off looking at that, and now it searched the 8,070 images and came up with images of moose. And so when I saw this image, for example, it was just like, well, why is that? And then I looked at the keyword that I had associated with this, because this is part of my, and it was, the location was moose. Okay.
So is it automatically keywording every single thing that it pulls in?
It's putting it through its AI algorithm and then saying, okay, this is a picture of a cat, this is a picture of a moose, this is a mountain, this is a tree, that
But
sort of
there's
thing.
no, as far as you know, no specific screen. This is Linda, did you see the keywords?
Yeah, I have not seen that. And it may be in here,
Yeah.
okay, but I have not. But, you know, I find these things down, down at the bottom, you know, like keywords. And, you know, here I can add a keyword and the like, but, and this is just the kind of like the metadata. And you can see why it picked up Moose because of the city being named Moose. There's the image we just took. Yep. There you are, Randy. Front row seat. Okay. So let's see, let's go to one of the things that you're going to find, which is annoying if you're a classic user, you've learned how to use keys to move around, you know. C for compare. Well, C in Lightroom is for crop, okay? And so there's a little bit of a relearn that yeah, you're going to have to go through on that. Just be prepared for it. I just wish they had gotten together and just agreed to it. But you know, you know, we were at some folks were in town and they wanted to go to the Hootenanny at the Wart last night, so we kind of took them there. So I hit the C key. You got the, you know, you can do all the things you normally do, and you know, crop it the way you want to crop it. It's called the detail module, but it just universally switches over. As soon as you type on one image, then it goes right into detail. And you notice on the right-hand side, you've got different icons showing up. You've got the mask icon, you've got the healing brush type tool. You've got I hit C for the crop tool. We want to go into the edit mode now. I'll call that the edit mode. It all kind of looks familiar. It's a little bit laid out a little bit differently, but it's all the same. So, and you've got all of the various things that you can do in Lightroom Classic. You know, there's black and white, and then you can come over, and if you have profiles loaded in, then you can go through and pick out whatever profile you want. If you're a person like me that tends to use or creates a kind of a profile around some of your black and white work, and then just it gets you started down that path. Light and exposure, color, we're not gonna mess with that. Effects, this is usually in a different module or a different pull down. They put it under effects now, so you can do the texture. You've got vignette, you've got dehaze and the like. The detail for sharpening, and this is where they've added the noise reduction. Now this particular was right off the iPhone, and so it's not supported by Adobe Lightroom Classic or this program as far as doing the denoise. So if I wanted to denoise this, I'd have to take it out, and in this program I would shoot it over to Photoshop and then do my topaz denoise there. And I prefer to work in layers anyway, so it's not a burden for me. And then when I close that out, it comes back over here, and I've got the modified image. You know, you've got all the standard things that are there, and then they've also added in the recent lens blur that they've added into Classic. So the basic tools are all there in Lightroom that you use on a regular basis. The things that are a little bit of a pain in the neck are if you're a Topaz user or an On1 user or a Nik user, having to go out of that and go back and forth. That's the other thing that I find is a problem, and it's because of my workflow. I do photography in North Carolina for a bunch of clients and doing a lot of product work and art reproduction and printing for them. And so it's important for me when I have their whole collection, they will come in and sit down with me and say, I want, 17 by 22 of that one, this one. We scroll down that one. And in Lightroom Classic, I can put those into a collection for them, and I can print that right out for them. And it's very organized.
No collections here.
And here you have there is. You have to do it, and it's called albums. Okay. But I'm much more comfortable working in Classic for something like that. Because from there, then I take it right into Photoshop and I print it in Photoshop. But that's my workflow. And I haven't experimented or learned how to do that here in Lightroom. You can do it, but again, through different, down below over here on the left-hand side, you can see albums. And basically what this is, I just went through my Lightroom Classic before I left and just randomly in the collections, just said, okay, link this to the cloud, link that to the cloud, link that to the cloud. And just to see what would happen and out here, these are the images. So for example, this is from the old Bill's photo shoot that I volunteered services for back in September. And I hope we can get some other club members to do that too. It actually is a lot of fun to do it. But these are 57 images that we kept, and I just identified them in Lightroom Classic in a collection, linked that collection to the cloud, and then here they are in case they're needed. So, that's basically where we're at with this, and I think it's made a major. It's had a major impact on my thinking, at least, about how I want to use Lightroom Classic and Lightroom. Now, here's a warning for you, and that is you can use both programs, and they call that kind of like the hybrid model. But just be very careful, because you can confuse yourself. I confuse myself sometimes as to where the edited image might be, is. So
if you edit something, now I'm thinking of transition.
yeah.
If you've edited something in Lightroom Classic,
Yes.
and you put it on the cloud,
Yes.
and you bring it down into Lightroom, does Lightroom read the sidecar file?
Yes. Yes, it does. And I say that because many of these are edited images. And for those people that want to move from Lightroom Classic to Lightroom, there is a way to do that, to move your whole catalog into Lightroom, and all of those changes will be moved into Lightroom. So they're making it easy for us.
Is it, if you're starting in, I guess there are differences in the price. But if you're already in Classic, unless you're worried, maybe I'll die before they quit Classic anyway. In a few years.
5 years.
5 years.
That's my guess.
Well, then I'll have to see that.
What do you think?
No, I think 5 to 7 years. And like I say, I don't think that they're going to eliminate Classic, but they're going to do the things that iPhones and all the rest. I mean, who's using an iPhone 8 anymore? And you're not. How about 6? And the reason is you cannot. Nothing works in them anymore. Everything has moved on. And I think that's what's going to happen with this. And that's how they're going to suck us into using Lightroom. But there's so many of us, amateurs and pros, that are using Classic, that they've got to figure out a strategic way to transition us over. And we're not going to move over until there's parity between the two, and that it's easy to do. And I think that's what they're working on. That's what they're trying. That's how they're easing us to. And it was a major step in October when they released and said, now you can just plug in your hard drive and into Lightroom, and all your images are right there. We got any other questions?
There's nothing on the chat, but might ask.
How's the finances compared?
The finances for this? Well, you get it through CC. So if you have the $10.49 subscription right now, it's there. You can use it. And you have 20 gigabytes of memory sitting out there. And I mean, I recently switched to the $20 a month plan because of the travel back and forth. I wanted to try and figure out how to put images up on the cloud that I could have access out here. There's another thing, and I just want to mention it. I'm not really qualified to discuss it, and that is, if you use Photoshop and you use regenerative fill and the like, you know they have some type of a cost associated with that. You have a certain number of chips that, yes. And so and this is one reason why I signed up for the $20 a month before November, because if you did that, you got a whole bunch of freebies associated with it. Now, what does that mean? From what I understand, Michael, and don't hold me to this, but this is what I've come across a couple of times, is if you are a heavy user of their AI functions in Photoshop and you blow through all of yours, and I don't even know if there's any way to figure out how much you have left, I think the only thing that happens is that all of a sudden it slows down. So if you are an illustrator or a professional that's using Photoshop all the time, that's important because time is money. But for the rest of us, we got time.
How's it going, sweetie?
Just fine. I love it when that happens. Anybody have any questions out there? Okay.
Is this going to require you to
Require you to use the phone?
cloud?
Oh, the cloud. No.
Like, not classic.
Yeah, no, because up here, for example, I just switched out of the cloud and I'm just looking at images off of my hard drive here. Now, I didn't go through the export function. It's actually much simpler. One of the things that I have that I think they will add to this at some point in time is being able to post directly to things like Instagram and Facebook like they used to in Classic. I'm a Flickr user, so I just post directly to Flickr. And I really like that function out of Classic. So it's that to me is a big deal. And I think in order to post to Instagram, as I understand it right now, you export your image out of Lightroom onto your phone and then post it. But you guys know a lot more about that than I do. So.
Where do the actual edits reside?
Well, this gets back to the XMP file question, and when you're working within Lightroom, they work within Lightroom. When you export them, then they get combined into that image, and that image then contains all of those changes. But as to whether or not, well, from my one experiment that I did with that, if I didn't export the image out of Lightroom, then the changes in the original file didn't happen. They just resided in Lightroom. Does that kind of get to your? In other words, the question is, can you export an XMP file, or can you automatically save an XMP file to a duplicate copy of the image? You can make duplicate copies of images in here. And whether or not you can save an XMP file to that, I don't know the answer to that. And I don't think you can, but that was based on one experiment, which is always dangerous. No, you can't. And that's one of the things that they're talking about adding, and probably will add very, very soon. And that is the history function. So you can go back and check and do some comparisons. You can compare it to your starting point. You can do a compare and see before and after type thing. But that to me is rudimentary. I really like, because sometimes I have literally 20 or 30 different lines, and it's just like, oh my God, what did I go down a rabbit hole? And I want to back up 10 and start again. And with Lightroom, I can't do that. In Classic, of course, it's easy to do. But you and I, in that, just from that discussion, we're kind of heavy users of editing functions and the like. If you're pretty much of a snap and go with minor editings, then Lightroom is a lot easier.
Well, that's like Photoshop elements.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What's not like versus Classic, so far some gaps.
There are, well, we've talked a couple of them in the development module. For example, you can't color code yet, but I think that's going to come. You can star. They're star ratings, so you can do that. You can, the delete function works a little bit differently. So I can go through, I was actually going to show you this, but we got kind of going in a different direction, where you can go ahead, you can go through and tag your images and then sort them, so you just get the tagged ones out. You can hit the delete, or the I'm pretty sure it's the X key, still the X key, and then mark your images for deletion. But in Lightroom Classic, of course, you just hit, on a Mac at least, Command Delete, and then if you had 200 images that you had flagged for deletion, they would come up and you could delete them all at once. In Lightroom, I have not found a way to do that. The way I have to do it is I can sort and get all of those deleted images up front, and then I could click on the first one and the bottom one, select them all, and then hit delete. And then so it's a little bit of a workaround, but you just get into these habits and do that.
I was just going to add real quickly, I made an edit to a photograph on my phone and it changed it on my computer.
It's in the cloud.
Because okay, well, yes, but I originally did it in Lightroom Classic.
Right.
I put it in the collection.
Right.
It shows up here.
Right.
I changed the exposure and it changed it here. But that original photo doesn't exist. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I think we've got them maybe.
Well, you would have had to have synchronized that folder with the cloud.
Yeah.
In order for that to
Right. But I'm just saying, I may be wrong about this. I think they're going to go to where they have to keep that edit, the sidecar file,
right,
somewhere where you can change it everywhere. Because otherwise, that's what people are going to want to do. They're not going to want to go, oh, wait a minute. I mean, your example earlier, they're going to want to get around that problem.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So what would be great, as far as I'm personally concerned, is to find other people who are going to be playing around with Lightroom and we can compare notes, because we're going to find different things about it. And we're going to learn how to better utilize this program in our workflow. So this was hopefully just a little bit of a teaser to get people to say, okay, I was ignoring this. Let me go in and play with it, and just play with it with some images that you've got on a hard drive. And then, we can get back together again and compare notes. I'd love to hear more about it. So, okay.
There is I don't remember what it's called. Somebody may know. There's a free web-based Lightroom knockoff. It's supposed to be actually really good. Does anyone posted on our Facebook page?
So the question out there is if there's a free Lightroom knockout that's available. If anybody knows about it, please speak up.
Quite crowd out there.
Very.
Or no questions in the Zoom world, I guess.
Nope.
Nobody sent a chat. I think that's about it. You want to wrap up?
Yeah. I'll leave it.
Any more questions?
Turn it to you.
I have a question.
Sure. Yep. All right, Michael's got a question. I'm gonna.
Just going back to the annual meeting.
Uh-huh.
Part of the meeting. We have a lot of money that we're not spending. And I wonder if people, we don't have to hear right now, people could submit some ideas of how to make the club better that would require funds. That we have.
So the question from Michael is, we have quite a bit of funds for the club. If anybody has ideas of what we could do to make the club better, and even if it costs a little of that money, yeah, send them in. So Tim, can you unmute? Or do I need to unmute you?
I think that was your. Yeah.
Oh.
Can I make a suggestion on that one?
Sure.
I think we had 2 years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, that in the summertime, we had at least one, like a picnic that we did someplace. One of them was right up that road, the most horrible road I've ever been on. We did it on that overflow. I think that would be really something that gets us to be more social and interacting with other people that you don't see very often. I think that at least one of those in the summertime would be very beneficial.
So Randy was saying use some for some social events, but if anybody out there has a suggestion, just shoot me an email, and you can pick it up off the website or off the newsletter.
What do you say about that? You're supposed to be stir.
No.
The usual thing is twice, 2 times the annual.
So you do 5.
Yeah. Because I think if some of these events we're planning, we may need, I don't know, an SUV or something. I mean, I don't know what.
We don't have that much money.
I don't know. Well, no. I don't mean to buy one. I mean to rent one.
Oh, right.
Like if we need to rent something to get a group of people there or some equipment or, yeah.
I mean, for example, the Yellowstone trips every year, a little bit of money, but the cost on those is actually quite good.
Yeah. So if there's no questions or comments from the Zoom group, we'll wrap it up. And if anybody here wants to visit or ask further questions. Oh, yep. Wait a minute. We used to be involved, Joyce, but we haven't been for at least, what, 3 years, maybe 5? Yeah. I don't know. They let all those printers clog up and had no money to even buy the cartridges. So I don't know what happened to it.
Well, that would be some use for money, if we needed to help maintain.
Yeah. You can ask some other people here. There's a lot of history back there, but yeah, I don't know. But that's not a bad idea, though. I mean,
Better than all of us have.
I mean, I tried to get a printing exhibit going last year. There didn't seem to be a lot of enthusiasm, but you know, if we needed to even rent a printer or something for a while and teach a printing class, because I still think if you haven't printed something, you really need to. Or maybe I'm just going to give up and buy multiple screens for my house and just let them and forget ever printing anything again. Yeah. So, like a frame, like a Samsung frame. Yeah. So.
If we want to do something around printing, we've got one of our premier people who's a professional printer, and it's Kathy.
Well, I understand, but I'm saying if we needed to, we'd have to talk to her. But I mean, if we wanted to bring in equipment, we could do it in some kind of venue instead of invading her house. So.
Hey Kathy, can we all come to your living room?
I've offered that before.
Okay. There you go.
We'll bring the food.
We may be
It's hard to hear you guys.
I said we may be invading you. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I've offered that before.
All right. Cool. Anything else?
David, this is Charlotte Kidd, and I'm wondering if in the future the club might consider doing more than one Yellowstone trip each winter. Because the one fills up real quickly, doesn't it?
We have considered it. You've got to have, 2 drivers for each trip.
Yeah, so we did 2 trips.
We did 2 trips one year.
1 year.
Yeah, but it's really hard. Charlotte, I don't know if you can hear me. It's really hard.
I can hear you, barely, but I can hear you. Yeah.
Because right now, the only people in the club that know how to run these trips are Barney, David, myself, Rachel, and Karen. Rachel and Karen are leading this year's trips.
Yeah.
So you got now.
Okay.
For someone to raise their hand and say, "Hey, I want to learn how to run a trip and lead it," and we will teach you how.
Yeah.
Fine.
We're not stupid here.
Yeah. So yeah.
Oh,
we could do that.
Charlotte, you have another question? No. Okay. Anything else? That's it. All right. We'll let everybody go. Have a good day.